in solidarity with Wet'suwet'en. They singled us out one by one. As CM said, until all that was left was me and my friend Kaylila. It's shameful the way that Canada responds to Indigenous peoples requesting to engage in dialogue and requesting for the bare minimum standards to be met. What we were asking for was for Wet'suwet'en hereditary law to be respected and for John Horgan to meet with Wet'suwet'en hereditary leaders. That is a bare minimum. And still, we were responded to with police violence. This is the status quo of how Canada engages with Indigenous peoples. As Indigenous youth, we are inheriting the Canadian legacy of colonialism, genocide, marginalization, and gendered violence. Violence against Indigenous women, girls, and Two-Spirit people that you will see demonstrated along the paths of these pipelines. The man camps, the construction areas, there's direct linkages between them and violence against Indigenous women, girls, and Two-Spirit people. Myself and the Indigenous youth who are standing with me, we sat in that office for 18 hours, and we did so peacefully. Our objective was not to get arrested. Our objective was for Wet'suwet'en hereditary leadership to be respected and dignified by the Canadian government, dignified by John Horgan, through a direct conversation between John Horgan and Wet'suwet'en peoples. We, as Indigenous youth, know that we cannot believe Canada at its word. We stayed there because we wanted a clear confirmation that felt good to us that Canada would keep to its promises of our demands. That was not met, so we remained peacefully, we remained in our songs, with our medicine, with our prayers. When a liaison was sent in to have a conversation with us, we first invited him into a prayer circle. Because what Indigenous people remember and Canada has forgot is that we have a sacred obligation to this land. As human beings, we all have a responsibility to that which gives us life. And as Indigenous peoples who have safeguarded and stewarded these territories since time immemorial, it is crucial that our sovereignty be respected for our collective climate future. So we need, after today, especially after how we were all treated by police, we can no longer accept narratives of reconciliation. Because a few hours ago, what reconciliation looked like was arresting and detaining Indigenous youth who were peacefully asking for Indigenous rights to be upheld.
Hear, hear.
BC recently committed to implement the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples. Is this what that looks like? No! We were arrested for trespassing. We were violently arrested for trespassing. But when Coastal GasLink trespasses upon Wet'suwet'en lands, they receive support from these exact same police forces.
Shame.
What we experienced is what Indigenous peoples and Indigenous youth standing for their rights experience everywhere. To be an Indigenous youth is either requires extreme compromise of our identity, extreme continued compromise of our identity and assimilation, and making ourselves smaller and smaller and smaller, because Canada does not only devalue us, but Canada sees us as an inconvenience. We do not matter to Canada. In order to exist in a good way, spiritually, emotionally. We have to do work like this. We do it so future generations won't have to stand upon front lines. So when future generations walk upon our territories, it won't be to face militarized police forces, it will be to heal. Because our parents' generation and our grandparents' generation did that work for us. That is the reason we can gather in groups larger than 3. That is the reason that we can wear our regalia and speak our language and sing our songs. And the fight is not over because Canada will always try and dispossess us of our territories violently as long as we are giving power to a structure that is built off of our genocide and continues to profit off of our genocide. We gave Canadian politicians the opportunity to talk with us. We demanded that they talk with hereditary leadership and to keep their promises. We gave Canadian politicians the opportunity to betray the Canadian legacy of Indigenous genocide, and instead they brought in police forces against us. These are youth that I care so deeply about. Their safety I care so deeply about, and it hurt me. It hurt me to see them taken away. This is unconstitutional. It is in direct defiance of natural law and of Indigenous law. We cannot stand for it. As Indigenous youth, we cannot stand for it. Violence against one is violence against us all. And so when Canada does this to its Tzo'odin territory, it will do it to our lands too. So it is so important that we are standing here today, and it is so important that we all send our love and our attention to what is happening at the Wet'suwet'en front lines. Thank you all for being here, and I want to see all of these faces continue to show up because the fight is not over.
Thank you.
We